Hey guys, welcome back to the Girl Gone London channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaylin. I'm a dual UK and American citizen, and today we're doing another differences between the UK and the US video. As I've said before, I write these things down on my phone, and then my notes section looks really strange because it's like doctor's appointment at 3, red velvet cake, UK. So I've compiled some of my more recent UK versus American differences. We try and keep them unique. We try and keep them things that maybe other people don't talk about. So let's get into it. The first one is this game that I'm putting up here on the screen right now. In the UK, you probably know this as crazy golf. In the US, we do not call it crazy golf. We either call it mini golf, or it's very, very common to call it putt-putt because you are putting on a small course and it's like, do you want to go play putt-putt today? I will say that in general, if you want some amazing crazy golf or putt-putt or mini golf, America is a fantastic place to find it. We really take this to the absolute next level, especially Florida where the weather's good all year round. You can find some very, very crazy mini putt-putt courses. Okay, the next thing I thought I would mention was something I realized relatively recently, and that does have to do with something called red velvet cake. So if you're British right now, before I continue, comment below and tell me, have you heard of red velvet cake? Do you know what it is? I brought this up to a British person a few weeks ago, and they had never heard of red velvet cake, despite being a very prolific baker and chef. So this made me realize that actually red velvet cake is more of an American concept. And the best way to describe red velvet cake is there's red food coloring often in it, but it has more of a chocolatey taste. So this cake is incredibly common in the US. You ask any American, they will know what red velvet cake is. But here I found it's not a cake on the regular lineup that you'll necessarily have. No one around me has ever like baked a red velvet cake in their home. Maybe I've seen it on occasion in a bakery, but it's certainly not as common as in the US. So that's why I would love to know, if you are British, have you heard of red velvet cake? Do you know what it is? Comment below and let me know. The third thing on my list has to do with phone plan expenses. So what I would call a cell phone, what you might call a mobile phone or mobile phone, they're much, much, much cheaper for the plan in the UK than in the US. People who move from the US to the UK are shocked. I think I pay about £10 a month for every text message data that I can actually use, and I'm on my phone a lot. In the US, this might cost me like $80 to $100 easily. This is a huge sticker shock, again, for British people going to the opposite side of the Atlantic. Phone plans are so much less expensive here in the UK. Now, the next thing on my list has to do with my recent driving escapades. I think I might have mentioned in a recent video that I am driving in the UK again, so I'm more aware of the roads and what's going on and looking around me, and I realized that the concept of learner plates, which if you're not familiar with, if you're not from the UK, learner plates are basically just magnets with an L on them that's put on the back of your car if you are not a fully qualified driver yet, if you still have your learner's permit or learner's license. And you can even get plates that basically indicate that you have very recently passed your test. The US doesn't do that. So you have no idea whether you are behind somebody who has a full license or who is learning. We don't designate things that way. I find it really helpful in the UK to have these because you do know who knows what they're doing and who might be new to the driving experience. So that's one difference that I noticed in the driving world between the UK and the US. Next difference between the UK and the US has to do with filing your taxes. So tax season in America is a huge thing. And it's a huge thing because in America, no matter who you work for, whether you're self-employed, whether you work at a standard 9-to-5 job, you have to do your own taxes. You have to fill out the forms. You can use an accountant or software, but basically you are responsible for figuring out some way to submit your own taxes to the American government to figure out how much you believe you are owed or how much you owe to the government. Here in the UK, I do file my own taxes now because I'm self-employed. If you are self-employed, obviously the government needs you to report what you have made. But if you work for a standard 9-to-5 job, if you are employed by a company in the UK, there is no tax season. You don't have to file taxes. The government just calculates it for you. They take out the correct amount. And if they haven't taken out the correct amount, they either send you a refund check or they basically let you know that they think you owe them this amount of money. There's nothing you have to submit. There's no calculations on your end. It's very easy. So taxes in the UK, I find much more accessible than taxes and tax season and tax filing in the US, which basically requires a PhD to make sure that you're doing it properly. The next thing on my list has to do with this. Americans would call it a baked potato, Brits would call it a jacket potato. So they are eaten in both countries, however, in different ways and with different toppings. So Americans will have a baked potato as a side dish. So you're going to be enjoying something like meat or another type of main meal and a baked potato on the side. A baked potato that is loaded, as they say, is often filled with cheese, sour cream, chives, bacon bits, salt, and butter. In the UK, a jacket potato could be eaten as a side, but often it is a main meal or like a cafe meal that you might have if you go out and order something somewhere. They're often on the menu like at pubs for lunch, and there are different toppings that they would put on them, but it doesn't look like an American loaded baked potato. You might have it with corn, tuna, cheese, beans is really popular. And again, this can be a meal in and of itself. So you would just order a jacket potato and that's your lunch. Whereas in America, you wouldn't ever go somewhere really and just order a baked potato. It's meant to be eaten as a side, like I said, with different toppings between the two countries. Okay, the next thing on my list is a word that is used for this. So in America, we call it cotton candy, and in the UK, they call it candy floss. So if you find yourself at a carnival or a fair, or you hear the word cotton candy or candy floss, now you'll know that they are the same thing. And the final difference on my list has to do with the pronunciation of, I will say it the American way, Costa Rica. So in America, we pronounce that O differently than most people in the UK who would call it Costa Rica. I might be accentuating that a little bit, but they pronounce the O not as a coast, but as cost. Costa Rica, Costa del Sol. And in the US, we use a slightly different pronunciation, and we would almost unanimously just say Costa Rica. I love these little differences in the pronunciation of things just because these are really the nitty-gritty things that you don't realize until you've lived in a place long enough. I'd love to do a whole video about these very small pronunciation differences because they definitely are there and they are constant, but that's just one that came to mind is Costa Rica versus Costa Rica. So that brings me to the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed as always, and I'll see you next time.